Hey everyone, it's Margaret here. I'm here to pop in to do a video for you on naming conventions. We're going to focus on online programs, but you can use these naming conventions for any online tools that you're using. Mostly going to talk about email service providers, but we will jump into Zapier, Teachable, and I'm going to give you an example spreadsheet that you can take with you. So naming conventions for online courses and online business tools in general. First of all, we want to start with what are naming conventions? So really, it's an organizational pattern of naming things that you can be able to quickly use to access information. Now, I know this seems really abstract, but we're going to dive in a lot deeper. So one example of this would be arranging things in alphabetical order. Arranging something in alphabetical order is a system or a naming convention. So that's one example, but we're going to get a little bit more complex because we're going to talk about ones that are specific to you, specific to your uses, especially with online courses and where those are concerned as well. So naming conventions can be used in a ton of different areas of life, but today we are specifically going to talk about naming conventions for your online programs and softwares that you use to run them. So why do we need naming conventions? Well, organization is probably the biggest thing, and we want to make sure we stay organized before you experience growth. So we want to anticipate how you're going to use these systems and programs and prepare for growth and optimize for that. So as online business owners, we often use softwares like Zapier, ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, Kartra, Kajabi, and the list goes on. Now with all these softwares, we have to maintain a level of organization that allows us to easily access the information inside of them, as well as be easily readable by your team members who are also presumably using these programs as well. So naming conventions really allow us to create an internal language within our company that everyone across the board will become familiar with. It'll standardize the way that things are talked about and also standardize how these softwares are used in our business as well too. It's important to establish these early on because things can get quite complex quite quickly. If you run an online course, you know that things can get complex fast. And the last thing you want is a sort of salad of all of these different sort of naming conventions piled together and you're not entirely sure which one you're supposed to use. So I think this still feels a little bit abstract. So let's dive in and let's talk about and actually show you what some naming conventions are, where they will be used, and a big picture view of how they all come together to be able to optimize your systems and make things a lot more easily accessible. So some of the main systems that you're going to be using for online courses are email service providers, which I'll refer to as ESPs. Zapier is one that you'll be using for sure as well too. Teachable or some sort of course containment program or paywall that your course lives behind, and a variety of others as well too. But those are the three that we're going to focus on. Now, if we go straight to an email service provider, I'm going to use ConvertKit as an example. So when I use ConvertKit as an example and I talk about the concept of naming conventions, now what we're talking about, I'm going to scroll down a little bit here too. So we just want to confirm that this is all test data that we're working with because we're in a public setting. But as far as naming conventions and how they apply to your email service provider, the number one way is tagging. So tagging, sequences, automation, all of these aspects of your email service provider are going to need the most amount of organization. These are the components of your email service provider that you're going to use most to organize all of your contacts. So we want to make sure that straight out of the gate, we establish a system that easily organizes them and acts as a language that your entire team can use across the board. So if we look at our dashboard inside ConvertKit here, we've got all of our contacts, and then on the right-hand side, we've got our segments. It says subscribers, 101. We have segments, tags, and products. So we want to start off with tags and make sure at that fundamental level that there's an organizational system in place, because tags, more than anything else across the board, will be used to identify, label, control the actions of all of your contacts. So starting with tags, we see here we've got just a tag that says sample data, because that's who everyone in here is. And we can go to create a tag. So what happens a lot of the times in email service providers is you'll go to create a tag and you'll label it something like new member. And let's say our program is called Online Course Academy. So I'll do online CA. Now, if I go and I save that tag, we'll see that it ends up here. New member, online course academy. So there's a few issues with that right away. One of the issues is it's starting with the word new. So new doesn't really tell us much. We want this tag to tell us information. New, it does tell us we're a member, so that's good. I'm gonna click on it here. So it does tell us as a member. Online Course Academy. Now this is an abbreviation, but it looks like it's an abbreviation that someone just made up, and it's probably not consistently used across the board. So these are some issues with this tag, because the next person's going to come in and they're going to say member 2022-2023 Course Academy, and maybe they won't put online. Now, these two tags should contain the same people, but if it's not clear who's being identified under this tag due to its naming conventions, then that's when we end up with a very messy email service provider platform. And it's a lot easier to establish these right off the bat than it is to go in and have to fix them afterwards. So we talked a little about what does this mean? And we also looked a little bit into ConvertKit and some examples. We checked out tags, which are the ones that you want to start with. So that's the fundamental way that people are going to be identified in your email service provider. Tagging is also available inside Teachable. So if you have these online course platforms, a lot of them allow tagging as well too. So because your contacts are going to experience your system at various points across it, that's another reason why we want to make sure naming conventions are standardized across your entire system. So for example, in Teachable, we can go inside users, and then we can see tags here as well too. So depending on where people are in your program, you can assign them certain tags as well. So this is why you'll start to see why establishing naming conventions becomes so important with finding and organizing information from the very start of not only online course journey, but online business journey as well. In ConvertKit, which we used as an example, we talked a little bit about how important the tags are and some things that can go wrong in there. Segments are another feature that we should apply naming conventions to, as are sequences and automations as well too. That includes visual automations. So I have some pointers here on how to set up some naming conventions, avoiding leading numbers, avoiding starting with special characters, and avoiding using combination of acronym and full words, which is kind of what we saw here too, with this like combination of acronym and like a partial full word. So we want to make sure that these are solid to begin with. So before we go through the rest and go through sort of the hard and fast rules, I think it's going to be best that we dive into exactly how to establish and start to create these naming conventions. Of course, as with many things that need to be organized, it all starts with a spreadsheet. So I've started our spreadsheet by creating the name, Online Course Academy. This is our fictitious course that we're dealing with. And then I've created all of these columns as well too. So we have our system or software, for example, ConvertKit, or you might be using ActiveCampaign. For this example though, we'll stick with ConvertKit because that's the example that we looked into. Then we've got our tags, our segments, lists and groups, our sequences, and our automations as well too. We can create more columns as things get more complex, but these are the basics that we want to make sure we cover. So like we said, we started with tags. Now let's look at the one we created in ConvertKit. We went through why this was a bad tag. So let's make a good tag. Let's use a common acronym that we can identify. We're using Online Course Academy as our sort of fictitious course. So let's use OCA as the acronym for that. So OCA member 2023. So this is actually a great tag. It's simple. When you look at it, you understand what it's saying. They're an Online Course Academy member of the 2023 cohort. Now, if you're running multiple cohorts per year, you can narrow that down as well too. So maybe you can do like a June cohort and so on. We can also qualify leads as well. So we say OCA, and then instead of a member, because not everyone on your list is going to be a member, so we can say OCA lead 2023. Now, what are some other ones that we might need? Well, maybe we have an event, like a webinar registration that we want to qualify people for and follow up on them based on that tag. So we can say OCA lead. You can use special characters in here as well too. I would stick with dashes and underscores and spaces. Try not to get too complex with any special characters. You can use colons as well for the most part too. So OCA lead, webinar registration, June 2023. Great. So now we know that OCA, they're a qualified lead for this online program, and they've registered for the webinar coming in June 2023. We can also do things like, so we've got webinar registration, webinar replay, and then maybe we can also do webinar attended. So they may register for the webinar, but they may not attend live, and they may attend the replay. Or they may register and they may not attend live and not attend the replay, and then we can retarget them. So as you can see, we start to put things together. We can modify the actions of these contacts based on the different tags that are applied to them in different points in time. Now, based on these tags, this is why I say the tags are the most fundamental component of it, because based on these tags, we can start to create segments or groups based off of them. So we can say OCA alumni. Now, maybe we want a list called OCA alumni that includes all of the members. So we have the June 2023 members, and then maybe we have the June 2024 members and 25 members and so on. And then we can create a list called OCA alumni and include in that list everyone who is a member. So for this reason, it's better to be more granular and more nuanced on the tag level, because we can always create different segments, lists, and groups dependent on variations and combinations of those tags. We can do the same thing with sequences and with automations. We can set up triggers and conditional statements that allow different tags to enter different sequences and automations at different times. This may be a bit difficult to visualize, so that's why I want to really drive home that establishing a naming convention, especially with your tags from the beginning, is going to be so important when we go into these more advanced avenues. Now, instead of going through all and creating all of these tags ourselves, I have created a spreadsheet that goes through some pretty fundamental tags that I use all the time. Let's check out a couple of these. We see that they're all for ConvertKit. You can use different softwares if you want as well too, but we're just sticking to this one to establish some naming conventions in one area. So you can see we've got OCA lead, then we've got OCA members, we've got OCA alumni. And remember, when somebody signs up for a course, they can be added to multiple tags at a time. So say they're already a lead, and then they go and they sign up, then they get a member tag. But also, as well as getting the member tag, maybe they get the alumni tag as well too, which automatically pulls them into an alumni group. And then we see all of the module tags as well. So as they continue through the online course, we can actually track their progress this way. So as they complete module 1, they get tagged with module 1. As they complete module 2, they get tagged here, and so on. When we do this, we can export, we can create graphs and spreadsheets according to their completion levels. So you can start to see now how tags can become so valuable, not only which tags they have, but when they're getting those tags as well too. Because if somebody completes module 2 in your online course, and then a year goes by and they haven't created module 3, we can also set up an automation that can target that person, check up on them, see if anything happened, do they need an extension, do they need extra support, and not only monitor progress, but really help people through the course, because the whole point of online courses, again, is to educate people and share your knowledge. So we want to do the best we can to get them to a place of success. I've also made an example of segments and lists here. We have some sequences, and then we have some automations as well too. This spreadsheet is free for you to download. Please download it in the description, copy it over to your drive, and go through and change things accordingly. So if your acronym for your course is not OCA, go through and you can change this to the acronym of your course. And then you can also cater it to your specific leads, like a checklist download, a video series sign up, any events that go along with a webinar registration, maybe an email gets clicked, it gets opened, and a lot of other different common actions as well here too. So this is a great starting point, and it's a free tool that I've made for you guys. It should act as a good guide to get you through establishing a core language for you and your team and a core group of naming conventions. We also have just a couple notes of what we want to do. We definitely want to start broad in that naming convention and narrow down within the name. We want to create an easy visualized category. So if we look here, these are easily visualized, like we have all of our leads, we've got all of our members. It's easy to sort of visualize that somebody's completed module 3. And these are pretty straightforward. We can categorize people according to payment plans, course completion, course incompletion, and so on as well. So if you want to screenshot also this, we've got some examples of some standards, which could be the program acronym, the contact status, contact actions, and the date. That's how I create a lot of my naming conventions. So an example of that would be OCA, which is the program acronym, the contact status, they are a lead, contact actions, they've registered for a webinar, and the date is June 2023. So if you want to screenshot that, it's a great example of establishing your naming conventions and a system that you can follow. But most of all, you want to make sure that you maintain the 3 R's, which is you want the names to be repeatable, readable, and recognizable. And that covers all of the naming conventions. Like I mentioned, this spreadsheet's going to be able to be copied from the description below. And please list in the comments below if you have any questions. I'd love to hop on a video and answer questions for you guys. You can find me everywhere at Margrafel on all the socials. Feel free to ask me questions. Happy to do a screen share, pop it on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram to get you guys the answers that you need to optimize your online business systems and your online courses. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time.